as we bring in our friend, our reporter, live at Halas Hall, the one and only Nicholas Moreano, who was sitting next to Herb Howard 28 minutes ago, seemingly. All right, Nick.
For me, I'm telling you.
Nick, I'll start with you with the same question that we asked Hogue. What stood out to you the most from anything that either Kevin said or Ryan said or Thomas Brown from today's threesome getting up there, if you will?
You know what? I want to start with Kevin Warren because when he was talking about some of the assets that the Bears organization has, I'm just not a fan of the order in which he kind of named some of these assets that the Bears have. One, he says the number one, we have the greatest fans. Okay, all the NFL teams have great fans, so we start that off on the bat. Two, great tradition. I guess, right? The Bears have a very historic tradition, but those are the two assets he's naming for the Bears organization in terms of, this team being what he says is going to be the most coveted job in the NFL. So he lays it off there. Finally gets it to salary cap, which I think is a very nice asset for the next head coach, why you want to coach there. Strong draft capital. I think I would have started off, though, probably with maybe having a quarterback in Caleb Williams. That would have been one of my top things that I listed, some of the assets that this Bears organization has for the next upcoming head coach. But when he started listing these things and the order in which these things came in, I'm like, yeah, I mean, every fan base has great fans. Some are better than others, but I mean, that shouldn't be like the top thing. Maybe just people pleasing at that point. But I'm sure, like you, Mark, for someone who's very particular in the details and how things kind of come out, I'm sure you probably made a face when you heard that as well.
I hated it. I absolutely. Oh, and this is Bears fans. Don't get angry because this is not because I love you. Believe me, we wouldn't be here without you. I get it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't
without
Bears
me.
fans are better than Steelers fans.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's an incredibly.
Name any other
Bears
fan
fans
bases?
are better than Packers fans. Bears fans are better than Vikings fans. I mean, just stop. Enough with the pandering to Bears fans. It's nauseating. Bears fans are smarter than that. They don't want to hear it. And he's also pandering to the McCaskies, which he's been doing a ton of. And I would have rather him say, this is an incredibly sobering moment for us. We have never fired a head coach in the middle of a season before. On a year where we thought that we were going to be a playoff team, we had to let go of our head coach because things went so awry, and we're sitting here with 5 games to go with no chance to make the playoffs. This is a nightmare season for us, and the last thing we ever wanted to do was be here today. So I would like to apologize to the great Bear fans out there for putting you through this in my 3rd year, and I know our general manager feels the same way. I know that I never want to be sitting here again. And I don't look at this like this is the greatest day ever. And from this point forward, we're going great.
Just taking them for granted, basically.
I mean, it's insanity that you're going to sit there and talk about how great your fans are. No one cares. Are you going to win games, and how are you going forward from here? All right. I would have liked to. They didn't say they said nice things about Thomas Brown, but maybe you don't want to get too far ahead of it. We are very excited about Thomas Brown. Thomas is an absolute enormous candidate to be the head coach going forward. We obviously need to win a bunch of games here or play well, look a lot better. But Thomas is going to be one of the candidates along with an elite list of others that we're going to bring in. The pandering's got to stop, man.
It's not good.
It's just.
I agree
with
that. And Herb, you asked the question about Caleb being possibly on his 3rd, play caller, because after I went back, read through all the transcripts, it didn't seem like to me that I wonder how much they're actually considering Thomas Brown. They're saying they're going to do this exhaustive search and that they're going to be very involved in it. And I hope as they're kind of doing this exhaustive search, they are really considering Thomas Brown as one of the candidates. If, things go well for this Bears offense, they start winning games, Caleb is making strides in the right direction, because some of the traits that Kevin Warren listed off, who is demanding, who is bright, who has attention to detail, creates an environment of accountability, who has is a decisive decision maker. Yeah. In a 3-game sample size that we've seen Thomas Brown take over the offensive play calling, I think we've seen some of those traits come out. So I just hope that as they're doing this search, as it's kind of starting right now, and as it goes through the end of this season, obviously longer than that, Thomas Brown is one of those candidates, because that would create stability for Caleb Williams. If they're working well together and you could see him in a bigger role and he handles this role as the interim head coach well, he should definitely be considered. But I just, from the time that press conference ended, reading through the transcripts, I don't know how much of an actual like this that they're actually going to consider Thomas Brown, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Nah, for me, I feel like he should be like leader in the clubhouse, right? Now, he's got a lot of work to do, but I think he should be the leader in the clubhouse for, who the next head coach is going to be. He's getting the first opportunity to have a 5-week audition of it. And all we've heard so far from the players in their locker room is positive feedback from the difference that he's made. What I don't understand how you can have him interview for the same job as Shane Waldron and you give that job to Shane Waldron.
Yeah.
From the very onset of Shane Waldron being the OC, we started to hear the players complaining, making suggestions about how he should tweak his entire coaching style, right? Then we started to have questions in the media and from the fan base about how he was implementing game plans and calling games on Sunday. You get Coach Brown in here for 3 weeks and you've already heard, oh, that looks much better and this looks much better. How y'all came away from that differently in the process of hiring them is absolutely crazy to me. But now that he's here, give him some sense of confidence going forward that, hey, he gets the first shot to say, this is what I would do in this position. It was very interesting to me, Nick, and I don't know what you thought about it, man, but how he came in and he immediately had a list of things he wanted to change, a list of things that he wanted to address right off the bat, not only with the team, but then in the media. And to me, it's like, okay, bro, you couldn't say this before, and if not, then what does that say about the open door policy or this collaboration that we're always hearing about from Flus? And what did you learn about how you'll be more collaborative and more open to your assistants bringing these things? As soon as you walk in your first day, you're like, well, I think we're all divisive. I think we got to get on the same page. I think we got to be more physical. Like, damn.
Nick responded. I want to play the physical quote because that was the most that anybody actually sounded like the Bears' tradition and history today. Actually, let's just play it. This was Thomas Brown on football, the type of football he wants the Bears to play, and he reminds everybody, it's physical, the Bear football, if you will.
Football is a violent game. It rewards those that play the game violently. So physical at every position is going to be our mentality. That starts this week against San Fran, to kind of prize themselves and built a great job throughout the years of building a roster that kind of fits that mode, of being aggressive in all phases, of kind of a attacking mentality. So it starts there for us. That's a non-negotiable.
That's what Bears fans want to hear.
That's beautiful.
Violent. Rewarded when you play violently. Non-negotiable.
Yep.
I mean, look, they're going to have to win some games here, but I'm interested. Because I was curious last year. I am Brown. Whatever, I got to come up with it. Let's go. But anyway, go ahead.
I'd
Nick.
work on the title privately.
Yeah, no, I got it. It's a little tricky.
What can Brown do for you?
There you go. The old
Brown was
UPS,
where I was going.
UPS,
That got a little, Anyway, go ahead.
No, I think that's the closest thing that the Bears have had to an identity since Matt Eberflus was here. Because Eberflus had the hits principle. The hits principle is a grading rubric, of anything. What he just said, Thomas Brown, with the violence and rewards those who play violently, that's an identity you can get behind. That's an identity if you're one of these players in the locker room, you know what the approach is going to be on Sundays. They haven't had that type of very direct as Thomas Brown is, and you know what it is that your team is going to bring moving forward. So when he came out with and saying that, and we've actually heard Cole Kmet say that multiple times on the 85 and just, in the coming weeks since Thomas Brown has taken over the play calling. So obviously he said he has a philosophy. It is stuck already to these players. Now he wants that to be how these players play moving forward. Like that is exactly what, if you're looking for possible head coaches, like they go about things a certain way, and it's a nice start to hear from Thomas Brown for sure.
Yeah, we were talking. I brought it up on Twitter a little bit. I was talking about it in Spaces with some people yesterday, and trying to understand what the criteria would be for Thomas Brown to meet this standard of taking over as the head coach in 2025 or being the leader in the clubhouse in 2025. And so I think there's obviously a win-loss idea, try to get to 4 wins or more. Certainly will put your name in the ring. Caleb Williams and the offense's production, continuing of what they've built on here these 3 games. But the number one thing for me that stood out with Thomas Brown, in this press conference wasn't what he can do on the field, but his message to the team this morning saying, family business is family business.
Yeah, that was good.
Because there has been way too much talking going on this year. And when you see a guy like Kevin Byard, a veteran in this league, have a leadership meeting the day after the Washington game, and then immediately go to the media and talk about what's being said in that meeting, that's a direct line of disrespect to not just your head coach, but your family. You don't talk about private conversations. And so we all understand that, and appreciate, some of the access we get that you weren't afforded to 20 years ago. But at the same time, loose lips sink ships. And you guys got to bond together and stop talking about each other through the media. So I hope the number one thing Thomas Brown can do off the field is to keep these guys connected where they're not taking shots at each other through the media.
Before you respond to that, Nick, just want to remind everybody as we come up on the end of the hour here that it is a great time to become a diehard. $36 for the year, $3 a month. You get a free T-shirt when you do it. Ho, get a great underlining of becoming a diehard.
It's done. It's paid for.
Exactly. Done and done. And look, our draft coverage, we got our own draft board. That's I don't know what that's worth, but a lot more than $36. So there's a million things we got for you, discounts, the whole thing on our merch, on our events, and our private Discord channel where we're doing a Die Hard overtime today. We'll be hanging out, talking with you. So I appreciate everybody who has joined, and if you haven't, you're not going to get a better price than you're going to get in these 36 hours, $36 for the rest of the year. Let me play one more cut here, Nick, our last piece of sound, and this is sort of dovetailing in what we're talking about here. And this was Ryan Poles, though, on, as far as like Thomas Brown being here, hey, you're not just going to hire him just so Caleb doesn't get a third offensive coordinator. But that's what it would be if you didn't hire him, at least for one of the two jobs, although I think it's tricky now to put him back to OC. But this was Poles on Caleb having a third offensive coordinator in his second season if it does go that way.
I think we've seen his growth through some of the situations we've had so far. We always got to keep that in mind. And we're going to make sure, again, when we go back to what's best for the Bears, his development is critical. So we need to make sure that there's alignment in that space so he can continue to get better.
So he sort of, I would say, strategically dodged that. Like, we've seen him deal with the complete nonsense that we've put in front of him so far, and we haven't ruined him yet. So basically, like, if we have to go that way, we believe that he can handle it because he is that talented. But also, we can't, whatever way we go, we can't screw it up again, in essence, what I'm hearing.
I was a little disappointed in myself. I could have set that up better to kind of get a more direct answer out of him. But
I forgot these are all Herb questions.
That one just was.
Yeah. That's a bad job. I was racing so fast to get him up. But so anyway.
I don't care about that. I'm just saying I should have set it up better to get a more direct answer. But I think that if Thomas Brown can show the ability to not only keep improving with Caleb, but also have a voice throughout the entirety of the team, I don't know how you walk away from that. Right? I don't know how you let's just change it for the sake of change. I don't know if there's a candidate out there that just blows you away so much that says, even though I've seen this guy do it, albeit in a short-term process, I've seen him command the team. I've seen him operate on game day, right? That's going to be important. Because you can talk about, the mistakes that Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren has made, namely in talking about hiring, whether it's head coach or coordinator, these things. But we all came into the season looking at the roster itself. Like, this roster is ready to compete, right? This roster is ready to compete. And then we probably would have at least a flipped record if we had competent decision-making at the head coach and OC level throughout the season. And so the two of them can look back and say, well, this ain't really our fault, right, per se. Now we made the change that we need to make. Can you keep that continuity going? And I think that Thomas Brown will get ample opportunity to see what he would do in some of those late-game situations. I don't see the Bears getting blown out a lot.
Well, Nick, I think that we might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because we have to see how it goes here these next 5 games. But I do think there is a potential crash course that we are coming up on. And when you look at the way last season ended and how much the team was rallying around Justin Fields, the fan base started to rally around Justin Fields. We want Fields at the end of the year. If Thomas Brown is to start to cultivate a culture, at the end of the year that has everyone rallying around him, And it's similar to like last year's decision. We like Thomas Brown, but polls might view someone else as a better option. Then it becomes this fight again.
What do we know about those other options, right? And let's say we're talking about Ben Johnson, or we're talking about one of these other hot OCs in Buffalo, or to a lesser degree Sloak in Houston. Like, what do we know about them other than that we like them as play callers? So if you like Thomas Brown as a play caller, and he's the only one that you've had the opportunity to see in a role as head coach, and you've liked those returns too, how can he not be in pole position?
It's a good point, Herb, but I think the biggest thing that will have these players really believe in Thomas Brown, how Ryan Poles believe in Thomas Brown, they still have 5 games that they can potentially win, right? There are still 5 games on the slate. 3 of them happen to be against NFC North opponents, and when we look back at those games, the Bears were in every single one of them. So if Thomas Brown can show that he could take this roster that we were just talking about, is talented, should be in a better position than their 4 wins show for right now. If they can win some of these games, I think that will be the ultimate teller that Thomas Brown can be a head coach. He can not only operate the offense and help Caleb Williams get to where he wants to be, but he just operate on game day better than what Eberflus was doing at the end of games. If he can show those things here in this final 5-game stretch, like, you really do have to consider him as the next Bears head coach. Again, it's a big if. These games have not been played yet, and it starts with a tough opponent against, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers. But if he shows that, you win some of these, you win an NFC North game, like that's going to hold some weight. But if you stack up a couple of them, but I think it will ultimately come down to winning.
He's got to win games. I also think, like, just, Nick, as we wrap this up here, like, he talked about unity right at the start. We have to unify the football team. All right, so we got Jalen Johnson reported in The Athletic having an emotional experience after the game in Detroit. All right, you've had, I mean, we don't have to list them all. I'll probably forget some off the top of my head, but Kevin Byard going up to Flus saying, what about covering the sidelines over here? Have you ever considered that? That was a moment in time. We had DJ Moore having to walk back whatever he said on the score. I forget his exact comment, whatever that was. And then the players going back to the coach
Mercedes
saying,
Lewis twice.
Yeah, like, hey, well, yes, we'll do all that, but it'd be nice if you ever took accountability, which Flus failed at. But I think the unity thing, more than anything else, is around the quarterback. Like, I think there was some chirping earlier in the year, maybe and about Caleb and work ethic and whatnot. And, like, you were just hearing this work ethic stuff, and you were, well, who are they talking about? Well, I didn't think they were talking about, Elijah Hicks. Like, I thought there was some level of the team that needed to come together around the QB. I don't know if you heard that if you feel that unity thing has a lot to do with guys rallying around 18.
Well, you real quick, Nick, you heard that from Ryan Poles, right? I'm sure you read it in the transcript where he said, one of the biggest challenges this year they ran into was a rookie quarterback molding with veteran players. And, like, we all looked at it, and Ryan Poles acknowledged, like, they were trying to build something around Caleb, a good place to come into. But that's also a challenge for veterans to accept, the rookie hurdles that needed to be overcome. And now it seems like they're all starting to kind of gel together a lot easier than they were to start the year.
Yeah, no, obviously that was a big point of emphasis, and that's why, Shane Waldron is no longer the OC, and Thomas Brown's just doing a better job of meshing those veteran players that the Bears have. You also have a rookie out there in Roma Dunze who's also trying to mesh with Caleb. So you have a bunch of different personalities, a bunch of different traits that work well in certain schemes and positions, and Thomas Brown's getting the most out of them at this point. There's obviously they still got to be better scoring in the first quarter. There's a lot that they still need to work on, but he is getting more out of this unit. But I'll go back to what I said. Like, it comes down to winning. You have 5 games left, get some wins, then you can really start to have these conversations about Thomas Brown being the next head coach.
And if the defense falls apart, because, let's give Flus credit for one thing he was good at, which was calling the defense. I'll give him some props there. Herb, you can walk it back. I'm totally fine with you pointing out where he went wrong.
Just been a little shaky this year.
Yeah, sure.
Especially the run game, getting gashed for big runs.
That's fair. But, like, even just the Lions game, like, looked horrible in the first half, and then they were able to, play well enough to keep him in the game, to give him a shot, and have Eberflus be bad enough to lose his job. But my point is, like, look, if they're competitive, and the offense starts to actually play well at the start, that would go a long way too. They don't necessarily have to go 4-1, 5-0 in my mind if the offense is humming and Caleb's looking real comfortable, because you're not going to want to change that if they're really hitting on all cylinders, putting up 30 points consistently. Do you guys agree with that or no?
I mean, I agree with it. I like the fact that he came in just talking about cleaning up our own house first, right? All the outside noise and all the external things will take care of themselves if we clean up our house first. And that's not just talking to the media, which is a big thing, but also the penalties, the stupid things like that, like all that kind of stuff, right? Let's clean all that up, and then we'll give ourselves a better chance to win these close games. And I think that's really all it boils down to. I don't think Thomas Brown would have given the ball to his backup center on the goal line when we haven't scored any points all game. I don't think he would do that, right? I don't think he would look out on the field and see his team in flux and not bang a timeout before the Hail Mary. I don't think he'd give up the 13 yards before the Hail Mary. Like, just these type of simple situations. I don't think that he would sit on the clock against Green Bay instead of trying to get 5, 10, 15 more yards before you kick that field goal. And so these are just small decisions that I think he'd be better at. Now, as far as rallying around the young quarterback, we knew that was going to be a situation coming into the decision, right? You knew you make that decision. You knew everybody loved Justin Fields. You know that. This kid was going to have to come in and ingratiate himself into this team and make it so that they will respect him, right, and follow him. And the struggles early didn't really lend itself to that. Cole wasn't getting the ball. DJ wasn't getting the ball. That Keenan wasn't. Like, that leads to a lot of frustration that doesn't say, okay, let's rally around this kid. Let's follow him. But they need to get past that, right? Whatever you want it to happen, it's done. Get past that. Get behind the kid. He's shown the moxie to keep fighting and come up big in big moments. Be there with him. Be there for him. And when their numbers have been called, they've all made those plays in those times.
Hey, Nick, last one. Did you have any reaction to the end of the press conference when Thomas was asked about some specifics in the Lions game, and he basically was like, that was then, this is now, and kind of dodged it versus sort of going in? And I would have been interested to hear him actually break down where he went wrong.
I'm surprised he didn't, Mark. Just given how, Thomas Brown, how direct he has been in every single other press conference. I thought he was about to break that down in terms of what happened with the communication with Caleb. Obviously, we know that Caleb had to change the play call. But I think if you're looking at the one maybe downside to Thomas Brown's entire press conference today, that would be it, because he kind of just talked about generalities and like saying we could have, won the game, or we had a few mishaps earlier in the game, starting at the 90 or the 1 yard line, trying to drive it down the field. But I think we were just talking about, he doesn't want to give too much, just like we were talking about how Kevin Byard's done that in the past. So maybe that's where he's coming from when trying to answer that question. But like you guys, I do want to know the actual specifics of what exactly happened on that final play, because earlier in the press conference, he said he's not somebody he mentioned the 3 abilities: coachability, accountability, dependability. He said, I'm not above coaching, not above accountability. And obviously he played a part in that play, not executing the way that it should have happened. So I'm a little disappointed that we just didn't get the full details of what actually happened at the end of Detroit.
I think he didn't want to tap dance on a dead man's grave.
That's what I'm hoping for.
That's really what I think. True. Like, because we've heard how fast he gets the play calls in. So I don't think he was struggling to come up with the next play. I believe Caleb already had it and was ready to get to the line and get there. But you also have a rookie quarterback who's never done this before. So somebody, head coach, has to help him out, right? You can give him a little bit of rope to say, okay, we got 32 seconds. Can this kid get us up to the line of scrimmage and snap the ball? If he can, cool. But if you can see, like we all are seeing watching this live, he's struggling to get this ball off. It gets down to 20 seconds. Coach, bang the timeout. Now, I don't know if Thomas Brown is in his ear saying, hey, give me one or not. Like, or if they didn't have that type of open door, input, like I don't know if that was allowed, like we talked about earlier. But either way, whether he's in coach's ear saying, hey, I need you to bang one for me right here or not, that's on the head coach. You stand next to the referee. You see your rookie quarterback is struggling to get this thing organized. You can give him a little leeway and say, this thing went down from 32 to 20. At 20, I can still bang the timeout. We can still run a play, kill it, get out of bounds, whatever. But you let this thing, he snapped the ball like 7 seconds.
Right, even at 7, like if you want to go the other way on it, I trust my guy to get the play off, and then we're going to call timeout and run it, and I'm still trusting him, Well, when it gets down to 10, You can't trust him anymore.
Can't trust him. It's done.
So it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, if you want to give Flus the benefit of every doubt that he's just believing in his QB, he's going to get this off. We're going to run the play. We're going to have the timeout. We're going to kick the field goal. Well, when you get under 10, dude, you can't trust him anymore. So you got to call timeout then and set up the Hail Mary as best you can.
Yeah, don't believe in him. Help him.
Right.
Like, help him.
Yeah, right.
He's
Well,
a rookie.
Of course.
Just help him.
Yeah. I get it. All right. Hey, Nick, great stuff, man. Appreciate all your support today out there. And you're going to miss Matt Eberflus, aren't you? His press conferences. You're going to miss getting to talk to Flus 5 days a week or whatever it was.
I like Flus.
Yeah, I mean, Flus was, we've had some good Friday press conferences when nobody's there. It's just maybe you and I, Mark, sometimes. But, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate for him, but I think he'll be just fine. And now we get more Thomas Brown. So, Thomas Brown, I really enjoyed in these press conferences.
Nick, you got any updates on anything you're working on for diehards? Because today's a special day for anybody trying to sign up to become a diehard. $36, and you can become a diehard today on Cyber Monday. QR codes there on your screen. I know Adam's working on some things that are exclusive to diehards only. I'm going to be jumping. I think all of us are going to jump on diehard overtime in our Discord spaces. You got anything you're writing up?
Yeah, so right now, actually, if you want to take advantage of this deal, there's already a diehard exclusive article. I went deep into the numbers of how Thomas Brown's basically changed his offense in the last 3 games, looking at that 3-game sample size. But also, like, I'm going to write that article that the Bears need to consider Thomas Brown as a legitimate option for their next head coach. And then as we get more locker room access throughout the week, you can expect more of the film breakdowns and some other diehard content. But $36 for the next 36 hours, like, you got to take advantage of this. The best offer out there right now.
That's one of the best things I've seen implemented on the beat this year. Nick doing the video breakdowns at the players' locker where they can see the play and you can see them as they break that thing down. That was absolute genius, and whatever device you use to do it is super dope. That's one of the best things I've seen implemented on the beat this year. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it, Herb.
Nick, we'll talk to you later in the week, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right, you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.